let's do it. Let's do it, everybody. So, this week's LARP stories. So, it was Zenithstrand this weekend, the game out near Saskatoon, the Underworld chapter out of Saskatoon. Because Caldor's, it's been shut down for a couple months while they're finding, new owners for it, and people are, currently bidding for ownership at the moment. It should be resolved fairly soon, and we'll see what happens with that game and, moving forward with it. But, right now, the last couple of months have been a little bit okay, it's shut down, and it'll be back up at some point soon, but there's no game going on. So Zenithstrand is the only game running, which is usually in the past where I've been playing Tawny, right? But I transferred Aeryn there last month, and I felt because I knew I'd be playing Aeryn, or I played Aeryn the game before, and I was going to play Aeryn the game after, because Siobhan's going to be back playing him on and all that stuff next month. It felt weird to just play a single game of Tawny in the middle and break continuity, so to speak. So I was playing my spooky witchy wild elf Aeryn this weekend over at Zenithstrand. But before I got to do that, and there's no tales of woe or drama coming up to the game, no car troubles or anything. Which is nice. I got a ride with my friend Shane, and we made it to game. Albeit we made it to game at 1 a.m. because I can only leave at 6 p.m. on Friday, and it's a long way to get to game. Takes us some time, So it was a little bit of a long trip, but it's okay. It's no big deal. We got there at about 1 a.m. And I'd been asked by Plot to bring the stuff for the NPC that I played a couple of games ago, Maddie, who used to be my character a long time ago, and was now a parlor lich, a lich that looks like a living person. I was asked to bring stuff for her because they wanted me to run something with her, at the very beginning of game. So I didn't get kitted up as Aeryn when the game started. When we got there, I went to plot camp and I went, okay, so what do you want me to do? What do you want from Maddie right now? My high elf pirate with the French accent and the very charming personality, And they said, okay, so here's the deal. You're gonna, your phylactery is actually in-game. Somebody has the tricorn hat that is, Maddie's phylactery. Out there in-game somewhere. So you're gonna find it, and we know who has it, so you gotta go find this person. You're gonna find it, and you're gonna emerge from it because, I don't know, you killed yourself to find it, because that's what you would do to get to a phylactery. It doesn't count as a death, so why wouldn't you do that? If your phylactery's missing, you're gonna be looking for it. And so you're going to kill yourself to get to it, and then you're going to emerge from it, and you can do whatever you want to the person who's holding it, that's fine. But then you're going to look for Adeline, and you're going to finish your, romance angle with her, because I've had this, long-running, romance angle with Adeline, this high elf played by my friend Katrina. And I was like, okay, so what do you want me to do? And they're like, well, we're going to give you a magic item that allows you to apply a ritual Death's Veil to a person once. I'm like, okay, what does that do? And they're like, Death's Veil is a necromancy ritual that when someone dies, they come back as a death mage after they die. Or a death mage is think Death Knight, but for magic. You know what I mean? They're sort of an undead mage expert rather than an undead fighting expert. They come back as a death mage. And if they are not invested in a necromancy ritual circle by the time the sun rises, then they turn to dust. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to apply this thing to Adeline. And you're going to tell her, this is your last chance to be with me forever. Become undead and run away with me into the sunset. or, well, I'm done with you, basically. Like, enough screwing around, sort of thing. I was like, okay, sure. So I went out looking for the phylactery because I needed to find the hat that was out in game, the tricorn hat that was my phylactery out in game. And so I'm looking for it, and I find the player who I know has it in their possession, and I'm like, do you have the hat? Is it on you? And he's like, no, it's not on me. I'm like, okay, where is it? And he's like, it's in my bunk, on the top bunk, rightmost corner of that house. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go over there, and there's, I'm out of game, and I go in, and I look for the item, and I find it, and I'm like, okay, here it is. Holding it in my hand, I start counting, like, emerging from hat 1, emerging from hat 2, emerging from hat 3, and then I just, like, jump out and put it on my head, like I've just, like, popped out of it, sort of thing. And there's one person in the cabin who's looking at me like, hi? I go, good evening. I'm looking for Adeline. Have you seen her anywhere? No. But she's probably out there, and like with the other people, the big group of people out there. I'm like, thank you very much. And I just leave. I just exit the building, with the hat on my head. Just like a very dramatic sort of like, Lich appears. Lich asks you politely where to find someone, and then leaves, and you don't die. Thank fuck for that, sort of thing. So I go to find her, and I see her like walking in a crowd of people, and I walk with them just like I'm supposed to be there, like I'm a player or whatever, with them. This is a character they've met a bunch of times before recently, and they know is a lich and like all that other stuff. There's a bunch of people there who know me, and there's a couple of people who go like, Captain, and I'm like, nice to see you again. A couple of people who recognize me, and they don't do anything to stop me, sort of thing. And I walk up to Adeline, and I tap her on the shoulder, and she turns around and looks at me, and then I just walk away towards like a dark corner where we can talk privately, in the outside in the woods, sort of thing. And she follows me, and we're standing in a dark corner, and I go, well, this is the month I said would be the last one. This is the last time that I am going to come, and I am going to have this conversation with you. Are you going to come away with me? She's like, I need more time. I need to resolve some things. And then, yes, I want to come away with you. And I go, that's not really how this works. You have tonight, a single night, to do this. If you don't, that's it. I'm done with you. And here's how you're going to do it. And then I reach my hand out, go, activate magic item, Ritual Death's Veil. And she's looking at me like, And then she goes like, I don't know what that does. It's a ritual that when you die, you turn into a death mage if you choose to, and you need to be bound in a necromancy circle or turn to dust when the morning comes. Okay. And then I say that in character. I'm like, you have tonight to, if you want to join me, kill yourself or die in some way, and rise as the undead, and come to me. I will be waiting. And I will keep you safe, and I will stay with you forever. We'll be together. Like all that kind of shit. And she was like very taken with this stuff, and I think she was a little bit like, what the fuck do I do? You know what I mean? Which is okay, because that was the whole point of this. And then the conversation went on for a little while longer, and I went, I have nothing else to say. I'm going to leave now, and I hope that you would find me. And then I leave, and the rest is up to her, like whatever happens. And I didn't even find out what went down, because immediately after that I went into character. I went in to be, my wild elf, because this was just like a little scene that they wanted me to do with this NPC that had been recurring beforehand, and I was happy to do it. I was happy to do it. So I got to sort of finish that arc of the story with Maddie, which is great. I'm really glad that it's sort of like resolved in a way. I'm pretty sure she didn't, you know, turn into the undead and come away with me, but I don't know, because, like, my player character is not privy to that information, so, you know, it's not up to me, right? So we got a little closure on that sort of arc, which is great. Excuse me. Though I'm pretty sure they're still gonna hunt Maddie down and try and kill her and destroy the phylactery and all that stuff. Like, they don't want a lich running around like most people don't, right? But so anyway, I went into game as Aeryn after that. So we're starting our game as our player character. You know, we're going in as Aeryn, and it's like 2 in the morning by this time. So like, not a whole lot is going on tonight. You know what I mean? It's very much sort of like winding down for the night, and I arrive and I talk to some people. I'm like, what's been going on, you know, while I've been away? And people are like, well, there's been some demons, there's been some ice elves, there's been a bunch of stuff that's like come through town and attacked people. There have been some Therians that have been sort of rampaging a little bit, and I'm talking to them like, I missed all these cool things, you know what I mean, like, in my head. I'm like, okay, good to know. Like, I'll keep my eye out for anything, basically. And there's this big mob of people all gathered around, like, talking and trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And there's this big dramatic sort of like thing happening, which was, I guess it was probably more Saturday morning that stuff was going on. I'm not entirely sure if it was Friday night or Saturday morning, because holy crap, I was just like, what the fuck? Friday night was very short for me, because, well, it was late and I went to bed probably 2 hours after I was in game. We probably killed some small crunchy things and then went to sleep, you know. Oh no, one of the things we did do is so there have been some rules changes since the last game, because over the summer or over the winter is when the people who run Underworld, like the Underworld global people, Ted and Dave, they do their rules revisions, and like, it's like when WoW gets a patch, you know, like balance changes happen, things get changed around, stuff gets, you know, like put in different places, but like, basically I needed to what can I say? I needed to like look at my skills, and I needed to look at the stuff that had changed and like what was gonna be different this game, because this was the game where all of those new implementations came into play, you know? So I've lost one of my best spells, Phase, which is like a psionic spell of the very high level, which allowed me to like dodge anything. Basically, it was like a blink out of existence for a moment and return, defensive skill. So I've lost that skill. That's not a thing that like sort of I have anymore. And I have this other spell now called Mimic, which allows me to, when I hear a spell being cast, instantly copy that spell and cast it as well. That's the new spell that's like taking the place of Phase. I don't like it very much. It's not very helpful, but that's the only thing that really changed for me. The other important thing that changed was all of the witchcraft scrolls and necromancy scrolls and sigil scrolls, all the like the frag book, quote unquote, like spheres, don't have scrolls anymore. The scrolls they don't exist. Like, I get my power, my witchcraft power, like directly from demons now. Like it's like the divine stuff where there isn't any scroll. You just pray and get your power from the divine. Like, now I get my power directly from demons, and there aren't any scrolls. So I can't use scrolls to burn extra spells or anything like that. I don't study from scrolls. Witchcraft comes directly from demons now. Like, that's the rule. So the scrolls don't exist. I have this big stack of paper that is functionally useless at this point, because of rules changes. But also, that'll come into play later, you know. The other major thing that changed, it doesn't affect me very much, but it affects a lot of other people, is that vampires, werewolves, aethers, any template that like changes your character without costing you experience points, is being removed from the game because they just haven't been able to balance them. They've been trying so hard over the past couple of years to make it work and fix it and like put it in a good way, and it just wasn't happening, right? It just like, it was impossible to have a character that was like at their maximum potential and their maximum amazingness without taking one of these templates, without figuring out how to get one of these templates. So there was this like crazy amount of vampires and werewolves and aethers like popping up everywhere because people knew that it was like a quick way to get a lot of power, right? And I think they made a good call, like, removing these things. I think it affects a lot of people's characters, and it's shitty that those people are gonna have, like, to rethink, like, what they're gonna do and all that other stuff. But that generally plot is amenable to trying to help you find a solution for how your character changes, you know? And one of the people affected was Kython, one of my Gen Vestment people who had a werebear template. And that werebear template, of course, is going to go away, right? It's not going to be a werebear anymore. So we did a little scene on Friday night with Tammy, in plot. Basically with like, okay, we're going to play it up like Kython's werebear is like getting aggressive and like taking over and like being a dominating presence in his mind, and we're going to get rid of it. And so we went to plot and I said, hey, Tammy, we'd like to trade Kython's werebear template for the ability for him to catch, or the ability for him to cast witchcraft, you know? And then she's like, okay, let's do a little scene. We do a little scene. I'm talking to a demon, you know? And I say, like, I'll give you this werebear from his soul. Like, remove it from him, and you can have it for yourself, you know? Make it into a hellhound for all I care. Don't kill it, but make it into a hellhound, you know? And it will serve you well. It's savage and aggressive and very strong, you know? Demon's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. What do you want? I'm like, well, he wants to learn witchcraft. He wants to be able to cast magic. And Demon's like, okay, well, I might be able to do that for you, but the werebear is not enough for that. I need your true name as well. Kython. Which is what I expected, because, like, when I did my witchcraft bargaining, I had to give my true name over to get witchcraft. It's just one of those things that you have to do. Like, you're not going to get witchcraft and then the demon have no hold over you. You know what I mean? It's just, like, one of those things that's just not going to happen. So I'm like, okay, what do you think, Kython? True name, werebear for witchcraft? And then I'm like, nah, that's a little bit of an unfair trade. It's a little bit uneven. Let's sweeten the pot. Here's the deal. You make the werebear into a hellhound of some kind, and Kython gets visitation rights on that hellhound. Gets visitation rights on that hellhound. Once every year. To make sure that it's still alive, it's still healthy, it's still safe. It has been part of him. He needs to be able to make sure that, like, it's being treated well, you know, in hell. So, once per year, Kython gets to visit with the newly christened, you know, like, werebear hellhound, you know, or it comes to visit him, you know. And the demon's like, done. Okay, perfect, good deal, you know. And, like, we make the deal because that's, you know, we need to get rid of the template. Like, it worked as a story purpose for doing that, and boom, done. He has witchcraft now. So I've got, like, a little witchcraft protege now. Though I think he's a witch hunter. I'm not sure exactly of his class, but I think he's a witch hunter, so he only has, like, some low-level spells. But, hey, you know, if narratively that works for him, I'm all about it. Like, facilitating rules changes by doing things in-game to help adapt to those rules changes is part of what I'm trying to do here. You know what I mean? So that worked out. We got that deal done. No problem. I did a lot of demon dealing this game. You're gonna hear the stories. There's some great moments of some lovely situations I got myself into, trust me. But that was the first one. And I think that was most of what was important about our Friday night. Our Friday night was basically like, we got that done so that it was done early in the game, so that we didn't have to worry about it or the template or whatever. We could just get it done. Rules changed. Okay, we're set how we're supposed to be, you know? Cool. And so we slept Friday night, and I'm sleeping in my bed. And then like the door opens while we're all asleep. We're all asleep, and the door opens, and I hear something come in, and it's going, Bog, 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 and like runs into the room. And we have like this curtain draped with like, that's covered in blood and like horrible stuff. Like, we've decorated our cabin really well. It's like this white sheet covered in blood that covers the door, you know? So you have to like come into the atrium and then push past the curtain to get into the actual cabin, if you know what I mean. Like, there's a little section between the door and the curtain that you have to go through the curtain before you can do anything to the people in the beds. You know what I mean? The way that the cabin is set up. But so they're coming in and they're chanting Bog, and Bog is like the dark god of blood and carnage. You know, he is the god of slaughter. He is Corn. You know what I mean? Like the death, the violence god, basically. Bog. And so they come in, they're chanting Bog, Bog, Bog. And I peek through the like curtain that I have hanging on the bunk to keep me like obscure, and I peek through the curtain, and I can see Tammy with like her wild hair and whatever standing in the middle of the room going like Bog, Bog, you know, like standing in the middle of the room, just like, you know, just shouting basically. And I'm like, all right, fuck this. And I pull the curtain aside. I go, what was it? Yeah. By force of will, I create Psionic Blade, pull my Psionic Blade out, go Spell Strike Sleep on the person chanting Bog in the middle of the room. And she looks at me, and there's a moment where she's like, do I have any defenses for that? You know what I mean? You can tell that she's thinking, like, can I stop this? And then she goes, nope, and then falls asleep. I'm like, okay, there's another one in the room. I walk forward. I push the curtain aside so that I can get at him. I go, Spell Strike Sleep. He goes, Weapon Conduit, which is the thing where, like, it absorbs the spell into his weapon. And then he goes, Spell Strike Sleep, and hits me with it. And I'm like, yep. And then I just fall over asleep. And he's standing there over me, and I'm like, well, fuck. I hope somebody else is gonna get up and fucking do something. Because I feel like I was the only one that did anything. You know what I mean? Like, how could they not be awake? These things have been yelling Bog in our goddamn room. And I'm lying there on the floor asleep. And this Amaranth, this Furbolg, we found out they were like cavemen, you know? They're called the Amaranth now. This Amaranth looks at the curtain that's all covered in blood. And then he pushes aside a little bit the curtain. And he sees that his friend is like asleep over there. And he goes like, oh. And he goes over there and he picks her up and like carries her. And then looks at the curtain. And I'm just sleeping there. And then he pushes the curtain aside and he goes, this good tree cave. This good place. Like this place. You know? And then he left. And then he left. Like, I think the thing that saved our lives was the fact that we had a bloody sheet hanging from the ceiling, you know, in the way that, like, a place that worships Bog, you know, the god of blood and death, would have, you know? Like, we had the gory accoutrements of a place that would do that. We had, like, you know, severed heads outside on the porch and stuff like that. Our cabin was pretty grisly. So, I think our decor saved my life. And by the way, I thought this was just some random Amaranth, like, you know, like, Bog stuff that was going on, and Tammy was just playing some, like, Scrub Lord. And I wasn't sure why she got picked up by the other guy and, like, taken out, and, like, you know, like, they went to go do something else. I found out after game that the person that I slept was not just some random Amaranth. They were Lucy, the first murderer, Dread Knight of Bog. Like, this super scary NPC that has at-will slay parries and at-will decapitates. Like, this very fucking terrifying NPC that I just happened to be able to sleep, that I thought was just some scrub lord caveman. You know what I mean? I found out later that she was playing, like, the Dread Knight of Bog, like, the fucking scariest motherfucker on the field. It's hard to tell sometimes when people play different NPCs, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize. I would have been a lot more hesitant to get up and fucking hit her if I had known that, you know? But, hey, it worked out. So I'm asleep on the ground, and then, you know, Victor sticks his hand out from the bunk and like, shakes me awake, and I go back to bed and close the door and make sure that everything's fine, you know? And our night continues uninterrupted. In the morning, we wake up. We wake up, and I'm a little bit late waking up. Saray's already been up for a while. She's been wandering around doing things. And I get up, and I head outside, and I can see there's this big group of people all, like, congregated in the center of town, like, talking about something, and, you know, there's, like, this big... There's this big, what would you call it? Conflict with the other Wild Elf camp. The Wild Elf camp led by Thalon and Tiki, the, like, Leandrites, who are, like, worshippers of the Mother of Elves and all that crap. There's this big conflict with them right now because they sent an angel to kill Thelonious, who's, like, this dragon knight. And dragons and gods don't get along, and he had done some things to upset the elves, like he'd killed some elves or whatever, and they sent an angel to kill him, and then they, like, defended the body and made sure nobody could resurrect him, and then he died, like the game before. So this game, of course, he's planning his fucking revenge, like you do. You know what I mean? Like, you get killed by a bunch of people, not like you're not gonna kill him back, am I right? So he's planning his revenge, and I can see this, like, big clump of people all gathered around being like, alright, what's our plan? You know? And they're like, they've got a henge outside their door, like, we can't get in because we have to pass through the henge, and the henge doesn't let us in, and, like, there was a lot of standoff stuff, and the Leandrite cabin mostly stayed in their cabin the whole game, like, behind their defenses, because I think they were worried about what was going to happen if they didn't, you know what I mean? Like, violence was going to kick off one way or the other, I'm pretty sure, but there was a lot of, like, tension going on in the morning, and Saray comes to me, and she goes, Tiki says she has something that like you'll really want to see. I'm like, okay, this is where they're gonna ask me to, like, be on their team. You know, I'll go and see them, and they're gonna try and give me something. You know, all right, cool. So I go with Saray to the elf camp, like the Leandra camp, and I'm standing outside waiting for them to, like, let me in, basically, and I'm like, it's me, you know, like, do you want to talk? And they're like, oh, shaman, yes, of course, like, recognizing into the henge. 1, 2, 3, and, like, I'm allowed through into their cabin. I step inside, and they're all like, yeah, so you see the shit going on out there. I understand why you're you know, why you're sheltered in here. They're like, yeah, we don't get it, but whatever. We have something we want to show you, you know? I'm like, oh, you have something that you think will be interesting to me? And they say, yeah. Here. And they take an item out, and it's a gem. And I'm looking at the gem, and I'm like, well, what does it do? Like, well, if you break it, you can contact a Galbrizu. And a Galbrizu is, like, a really powerful type of demon. You know what I mean? And they know that I'm into the whole witchcraft thing, and they do the demon deals and all that business. And they're like, if you break it, you can contact a Galbrizu. And I'm like, do you really think I'm not already in contact with demons? With demons that I make deals with, that I'm, like, that I have rapport with and am loyal to? Contacting a random Galbrizu doesn't really help me very much. It could be a Galbrizu that wants to do me harm. You know? I have loyalties. You know, they're like, fair. But I could tell after that they thought the bribe was gonna work and like get me on their side a little bit. You know what I mean? Not that I'm not on their side, I'm just not on any side. You know, like, I don't want to get involved in the conflict that could get me killed, like, tertiarily because of some PvP nonsense, you know? I'm just like, yo, it's not my problem, you know? But I could tell that, like, they didn't exactly know what to do after the bribe didn't work, sort of thing, or, like, the trade, you know? And they're like, well, we have other things we could do. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm going to go out there and I'll say some things about how this is stupid and how this conflict is pointless and all of that sort of thing. And hopefully I'll be able to dissuade them a little bit. And you know, I did talk to some people, like, I don't understand why you're in conflict with people that could be helping you and blah, 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 all that other shit. But, like, I didn't want to commit to one side or the other in this conflict. I wanted to let that happen on its own. But it's so interesting that, like, stuff comes to me that's, like, demon related these days. I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that I get the interesting demon things come my way. You know what I mean? And so I'm heading back from their cabin. And then there's this NPC talking to a big group of people, and I walk up and I'm listening to the conversation that's happening. And it's this operative who's telling them what's gonna happen basically in the next little while. He's like, well, the curator's gonna come back, and the curator is like this golem from a Grey Elven library that's basically indestructible, that's been stealing people and turning them into like mechanical versions of themselves. You know what I mean? Like, all the wildlife is like clockwork, and it's bad. Like, his shit's been going badly. And so the curator's gonna come back, but he can only be away from the library for a certain amount of time. And he wants to get the power of the magic ley line that's in this town. You know, like right over there, the center of the ley line, you know? So you have to keep him away from it for the hour that he can be out. You know, like, that he can be out and about from the library. It's like, okay, cool. Also, there's a demon named Rathian who's going to be coming looking for it as well. The ley line, I mean. Also, the Dread Knight of Bog has been looking for it. You know, like, there's like 3 big antagonists that this guy mentions. And then there's a line somewhere in the dialogue that's like, if you have any, you know, demonologists, you can learn a little bit about Rathian. You know, like, if you have anybody who knows any more about this, you should look into it. And when this NPC leaves, I turn to everybody else and I go, I'll deal with it. You know, and then like walk away to go make my contact with my demon to try and figure out who this Rathian guy is. You know what I mean? So I'm worried about the curator because last game I had to cover the door in my own blood and shield it with my life force to keep it out of my goddamn cabin and not killing my people, right? So I have a couple of motivations for this next demon contact. I've got a couple of things I want to talk about and a couple of things I want to say to this demon. So I go and I get my magic item that is like an idol. It's like a skeletal hand. It's like an idol that allows me to make telepathic contact with my, like, you know, representative. It's like my demon phone. You know what I mean? So I use it and I say, like, I need to make these. I need to know some things and I need to make these deals. And the demon's like, I'm going to come and see you. This isn't a conversation to have at a distance. Like, I'll come and talk to you in person. I'm like, okay, we'll be waiting. You know, like, and we sat in the cabin and waited for this NPC to come, you know? And so he did. Wes is one of the owners, came in playing this character. There's a knock on our door, and I go over to it, and I open it, and it's this man wearing sort of like this hat with like bones in it, and carrying a staff. And I go, "Are you the person I've been waiting for?" He says, "Yes, I am." And I look at him because he doesn't look like a demon; he looks like a person. You know what I mean? And I go, "A fellow practitioner?" And he's like, "The body used to be." You know? I go, "Oh, very well." And I step back and I dispel the demon trap that's at the door because I'm expecting, you know, like hostile demons at some point. dispel the demon trap that's at the door and, like, let him in. And so in he comes, and he sits down, and we start having this conversation. I'm like, all right, here's the thing. First of all, I need to know who you are, because I don't think I've gotten your name yet. He's like, my name's Mr. Mordens. That's what you can call me. And, I know about the things you're going to ask about. I'm like, oh, really? You do? He's like, Rathian, right? I'm like, yes, Rathian. Tell me about Rathian. He says, well, Rathian is this upstart demon that is almost of the level of Galbrizu. Almost the level of a Galbrizu. Trying to take on the title of sort of the Scion of Anger now that Chernozog is gone. Because in Zenithstrand, there's, like, 7 demons that are the 7 deadly sins, you know, like, very cliche kind of deal, but it works really well. Like, it's this cool thing. And each of those demons serves one of the 7 demon princes of hell, like, that kind of shit, like, to meet with global plot, which I really like. And so he's like, he's trying to become the Scion of Anger now that Chernozog is gone. I'm like, okay. And he thinks the ley line is going to do that for him. He's like, yes, exactly. I'm like, tell me more about Rathian. Tell me what he can do. He says, well, he's a powerful demon, and he can enrage people at will. Be very careful when engaging him with your friends, because your friends quickly become your enemies. I'm like, all right. Good to know. You know, I'm trying to get as much, like, free shit from him as I can. I just want him to talk. And I want to get free shit. This is all information I haven't had to pay for yet. You know what I mean? He's just telling me things, and I haven't given him anything yet. You know? I'm like, okay, tell me about this. You know, like, tell me about the Curator. What do you know about the Curator? How long can the Curator be out? And he's like, the Curator can be out for about an hour. You know? Do the same defenses that worked last month work against the Curator this month? And he says, the Curator learns things. The Curator learns things. And I would be shocked if the same defenses worked a second time. They might slow him down, but they won't stop him. I'm like, okay. Here's where we start making a deal. Can I do the same defense I did last time? Put blood over the door and then shield it with my own life force. You know? He's like, you can, but it won't stop him. You'll be able to get through that, I'm sure. Okay, well, I need something else. Here's the deal. I want a circle in this house that will allow us to infernal walk out of here and come to you, wherever you are, so that we may be sheltered from anything that might attack us. And then we'll be sent back here once the coast is clear. He's like, oh, we're asking for things now. Okay. I think I can do that. But what are you offering? And I'm like, well, I have all this paper that's useless now. All these scrolls of witchcraft that I don't seem to be able to study from anymore because my power is coming directly from you demons. You know, like those who grant me this power. It's coming directly from them now. And all of this paper is useless to me. So I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you because I'm sure you still have a use for it. And you give me what I want, you know? And he's like, I think your safety is important to me. Because, you know, I consider you a long-term investment. I'm like, oh, you consider me a long-term investment? That's good to know. Because, you know, you should always protect your investments. If you think I'm valuable, then let's talk about how you're going to defend me. If I give you all these papers that I could easily trade for, you know, more and bountiful lesser magics, because out of game, the way that they were doing it was you trade in 1 scroll from a frag sphere and you get 2 from a basic sphere. So like for one Dark Pact scroll, I could get 2 life scrolls, you know, like this kind of thing. And I had about 25 to 28 frag sphere scrolls. They would have had to done a lot of fucking writing to make me all the tags that I would have got from this shit. So I'm kind of doing them an out of game favor by making this deal, right? The value of this paper is like fairly significant, right? I'm like, so what are you gonna do to defend your investment? If you consider me a long-term investment, then you should defend me. And I consider my people to be very important, and as such, I want to defend them as well. So the circle will help me defend them. Now let's talk about how you're going to defend me, you know? And Demon goes, oh, okay. I say, the Dread Knight of Bog is coming. I happen to know the Dread Knight of Bog likes to cut off people's heads. And I happen to know that her minions like to cut off people's arms and legs. They like to chop pieces. I don't want to be chopped or stabbed or what have you. Defend me from that. Give me some defense from that. He says, good plan. I will give you the equivalent of alien anatomy for the rest of the month. How does that sound? I'm like, you're going to give me something temporary for all these permanent things that I'm going to give you? By the way, alien anatomy is the skill that stuff like Oozes has, where you can't cut off its head or its arms because you can't determine where those things are or how you would do that. And you can't execute them, you can't vital blow them because their organs are they're not anywhere, you know? So this is a power being granted to me that basically means I'm immune to like a whole bunch of skills immediately, you know? So it's a good fucking power. It's a good power, but it's only for the weekend, and I'm trading permanent items. I'm trading scrolls that I could get scrolls for. You know what I mean? and I say, well, that's a temporary, fleeting kind of deal for something I'm giving you that's permanent. It's items. It's something to put into your hand. You know, give me something enduring. You know, give me something that will last me. He says, okay. That's a fair point. I tell you what. I will also give you 2 contingency cure serious wounds until you use them. Oh. All right. You have yourself a deal, my demonic friend. Shake hands. Hand over the paper. Get my powers. Get the infernal circle set up. We put it underneath a rug, you know, like supernatural style, so nobody could see it. It was a good choice. But so if we ever needed to, we could run to that circle and infernal walk away into hell, basically. Like, we had a gateway to hell. And so that was pretty cool, like in our cabin. And so I got my powers, and he's like, pleasure doing business with you, and he leaves with all my scrolls, and that's it, right? Oh, no, there was one more thing. Sorry. And he's like, you want to know how to destroy the curator as well, don't you? Because I remember, like, going, whatever, like, this deal is kind of weird. You want to know how to destroy the curator as well, don't you? Well, here's the thing. I know what the Grey Elf coming in a few hours is going to tell you to do to destroy the curator. And I happen to have exactly the solution. I'm like, what is it? How do you destroy the curator? It's like this invincible golem we haven't been able to destroy. And he's like, well, you have to kill yourself with this specific dagger and merge with the ley line, and then you can throw magic that will be able to hurt the curator. I went, well, that sounds dangerous, you know, killing yourself and merging with a ley line. He's like, well, obviously, but that's how you do it. I'm like, all right, give me that dagger as well. He's like, done, no problem. You know, we shake hands, and that dagger, and he's like, I'll have that appear in your pocket sometime in the next hour. Because he had to go write the tag and, like, you know, whatever. So later on, he comes with a white headband and just, like, shoves it into my hand so I can put it in my pocket. But, so I got this dagger that I can plunge into my own heart or like, give to anyone else to plunge into their hearts, you know, to merge with the ley line so they could then throw magic that could hurt the curator. Because the curator is this thing that we haven't been able to kill. It's like this deadly, fucking ridiculous, powerful golem that keeps abducting people that we can't hurt, you know? So, yeah, we want to kill it, you know? But anyway, so I got a deal for that as well. So, Alien Anatomy for a month, Infernal Circle for the month as well, and 2 Cure Serious Wounds contingencies until I use them. And the thing about Cure Serious Wounds contingency is it's a spell that goes off, it's on your spirit, and it goes off when you hit the last second of your bleed count. So I can only use it on me, but it automatically happens if I'm about to die, basically. So if I'm, like, lying on the ground, miles from anyone, alone, and I've been ambushed in the woods or whatever, and they've walked away, I will get back up. It is a contingency Cure Serious Wounds, you know? It's not like, oh, I can use, like, 2 Cure Serious Wounds whenever I want. It's like, I just get them. Yeah. You know, it's awesome. I love it. And that's until I use them, so we'll see how long that takes, you know? Like, having those things on my spirit is pretty fucking sweet. But yeah, cool. So, all right. What else? What else have I got? So we did the demon deal, and then I had this item, this dagger, for the next, I don't know, 5 hours after that, while we fought, like, some random stuff. You know, there were some things came into town. We fought some demons and some other things like that. It really, you know, not really an issue. You know? There was one point where these like lesser demons came into town, and they're just, like, menacing people and chopping off limbs and, like, generally being fucking aggressive, and, like, there was a lot of fighting going on. And I thought, like, wait, these guys are gonna be Rathian's guys, right? Like, they're definitely gonna be Rathian's guys. So I'll just grab them and interrogate them to figure out anything else about Rathian that we need to know, you know. And and so I have a spell that allows me to like, control lesser demon or angel, basically. And so I roll up on these demons, and I point one out, and I, like, beckon to him. I'm like, come fight me. And I'm like, bring it on, demon. And he's like, oh, you want to fight? He, like, runs towards me, and I just go, control lesser demon, you know? And then he's like, okay. And I'm like, come with me, like, leave, with him. And I go to plot, or I start talking to him, and I'm like, who do you work for? And he goes, like, out of game, I have no fucking idea. Like, I don't know anything, because I'm just an NPC playing, like, a lesser role. You know, it's like, he didn't know anything about the plot, sort of thing. He wasn't a plot writer. He was just playing an NPC, sort of thing. I'm like, okay, well, we'll go to plot camp and talk to plot, you know? And so we went to the plot camp, and I'm like, hey, Wes, I have one of your demons, that I would like to, you know, interrogate and figure some stuff out. He's like, oh, okay, I'll stand in for the demon. Like, you know, it's fine if you can go, like, do some other stuff or whatever. So I'm like, okay, here's what I ask him. I say, like, who do you work for? He's like, Rathian. When's Rathian coming? In about an hour. You know, like, how is the best way to defeat him? He's like, I don't know. I'm just a lesser demon, you know. Do you know anything about the curator? Yes, all the stuff we've already heard, you know. And then eventually I get bored of basically, I get bored of talking to this demon, and I go, cool. You give me 2 liters of your blood, random demon. So he had to, because he's like mind controlled basically. So he gives me 2 liters of his blood. And then I go, and then kill yourself. And then he had to do it. It was great. It was the perfect way to end. It was the perfect way to end a demonic execution. Like, it was easy, you know, like, or I mean, a demonic interrogation by just like having him murder himself and go back to hell. It was fine. No problem. So, yeah, you know, it's all good. So we keep going. And all the other demons have been slaughtered by the time I get back out there. And what was it next? The Grey Elf shows up. Yeah, give me 2 liters of your blood. Casual, like, you know how it is. So the Grey Elf shows up, and Grey Elves are, like, extinct. They're, like, this race that basically there's only, like, a couple of them left. They're super ancient. They have all the magical powers. And the Grey Elf shows up and says, like, he knows how to destroy the Curator. Everybody come listen to him, sort of thing. And like, we go to listen to what he's going to say. He says, and I am not kidding, everything that I have already heard about 5 hours before from my demon. Like, I already have all this information. I have a dagger with me that does exactly the thing that he brings out a magical dagger and is like, if you use this, it will do exactly the thing that I've already said. You know, like the like, you stab it into your heart while you're standing on the ley line, and then you can cast magic that destroys the Curator, you know? And I'm like inwardly kind of laughing my ass off, but I'm trying, you know, I'm being very stoic about it, you know, going like, I already know all of this. I've already talked to a demon that knows all of these things, and I have the item that they're trying to get from him right now, you know? and all of that. But so then at the end of his speech about how to destroy the Curator, he's holding the dagger and he goes like, so who among you is going to take this, you know, and keep it safe? And I go, I will. I'll keep it safe. You all know that I will make sure that it doesn't get taken. You know, I'm looking at everybody and I'm thinking to myself, can I get 2? Can I get 2 of these daggers and have them both in my possession? Like, I want to be the person who goes like, and I save your lives by giving them 2 daggers to kill the Curator with. I want to be the person that they're beholden to by having the power and keeping it safe and all that stuff. I'm thinking this to myself while this meeting is going on. I'm like, I'll keep them safe, you know. And some people are like, yeah, I mean, Aeryn will keep it safe. Like, there's no way that anybody will get it from her. But they didn't give it to me in the end. They gave it to somebody else, and I don't really care. They gave it to Branwen, who's the leader of like the alchemy guild. You know what I mean? So this whole thing happens, and I'm like, all right, fine. Well, even if they lose it, I have an extra one. You know, I don't tell anybody that, but I know that I have another one. I have the false Grey Elven dagger. That's what it says on it. And during the meeting, the Grey Elf's like, you have to use this at the sun's zenith, you know? Like, so all night you have to play keep away from the ley line with, like, the Dread Knight of Bog, the Demon Rathian, and the Curator. So all night you've got to play keep away. And then at the sun's zenith the next day, you can use it and like, do the thing. My dagger doesn't say shit about the sun's zenith. Doesn't fucking matter what time of day it is. You can use that shit. I don't want to tip my hand, so to speak. I didn't know who to tell, and I knew it would be safe to tell that I have this like extra one. So I waited until the sun's zenith the next day to use it. I didn't use it during the night, but yeah. I didn't have that restriction on mine. Mine was the unlocked version. You know what I mean? Like they all had their you know, iPhones or whatever. I got mine like unlocked. It's all good. It's fine. I got my fancy dagger that doesn't need the sun to do shit. But anyway, that night was a fucking trial. Let me tell you, that night was a fucking trial. Oh wait, no, I forgot an important story before the night. So during Saturday, there was this honor duel that happened that had something to do with like Valder or some other shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know what was going on, but I was sitting around outside and I saw these people like honor dueling. You know what I mean? And it was like this paladin of Valder and like an aspirant of Valder. And Valder is like the you know, like god of, you know, like honorable combat and like drinking, and like basically take Norse gods and make them like Odin and Thor and all that shit and make them into a like a god, and it's Valder, you know, and like Valder. And so they're and so they're doing like this honor duel with this fawn that had stolen the paladin of Valder's sword. And they, like, wanted to get it back or whatever. And I'm watching this honor duel. It's 2v1. This fawn versus these two, like, the paladin of Valder and his little aspirant, who's a player character. And they're fighting against the fawn. And the fawn fucking kicks their asses. Like, puts them in the fucking dirt. Right? Like, they fight for a while, but the fawn wins. And decapitates the paladin of Valder. And kills the other guy, and wins the honor duel with this stolen sword, right? And I'm like, okay, great, good for them, you know? But then I think to myself, wait a second, there's a dead paladin over there. I wonder if he'll accept a dark pact. You know? And I walk over to the paladin of Valder, and I kneel down next to him, and I go, I summon a hex to grant dark pact? And I'm like, he's gonna say no. It's a paladin. It's a paladin of Valder, like the god of honor and fucking combat and being a badass and going to Valhalla, you know, and all that shit, right? Like, I summon a hex to grant dark pact? And he goes, accept. And I'm like, oh, and he gives me a letter of his true name, because that's how it works. I get a letter of the paladin's true name when I do a dark pact. I get a dark pact. Whenever I dark pact someone, I get a letter of their true name. You know, so, you know, I've got this letter of a paladin of Valder's true name that I'm like, I'll just tuck that away for a rainy day. Put that in my pocket. You know, it's all good. And he gets back up and he like helps this little aspirant guy up, and then there's like other people getting involved in this, and eventually there's another honor duel with the same fawn that like got healed back up and everybody got fully armored up, and there's another honor duel, but now it's 3v1. There's like somebody else involved, and they managed to kill the fawn, you know, and get the sword back for the paladin of Valder. And I'm not really sure what happened after that, because I didn't care. Like, there was some stuff about like, but I lost and I was shamed, so now I have to go to Valhalla or whatever, or like I have to, you know, die in honorable combat, like fight me, aspirant of Valder, you know, and the paladin and the aspirant fought each other and the paladin died. So it was generally just a waste of my resource, because I brought him back to life and then he voluntarily went to go fucking die. It pain in my ass, right? Just generally a thing that I was like, come on, guys. Come on. Like, really? You're gonna make me fucking waste my shit like that? It's a real big problem. It's a pain in my ass. Paladins. Am I right? Fucking paladins. Yeah. But anyway, no big deal. I still had a true name letter of a paladin who went to Valhalla. That's gonna be useful. Even if he's dead, I'm sure that's gonna be useful. You know what I mean? I keep that in my pocket. Yeah, so that's good. And it turns out it was useful, because later in the day, you know what happened? somebody came up to my cabin and they're like, Soray's been taken. Soray's been taken by the curator's minions. Like, we weren't fast enough to get her. You know, she got captured and they took her away. And when they take people away, they turn them into fucking golems and shit. And I'm like, oh, you idiots. You idiots, you let one of my people get taken? Are you serious? You know, like, these fucking townsfolk. Am I right? God. But I immediately think to myself, Soray's been taken? No, she hasn't. I grab my communication idol for my demon, and I march to plot camp, and I push the door open, I knock on the door, I push the door open to plot camp, I'm like, Wes, I contact Mr. Mordens with the idol, and I say, Soray has been taken by the curator's minions. I want her back through the infernal circle, safe and sound. I will give you a letter of a paladin's true name in return. And Wes was playing the paladin, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And he just looks at me and he goes, done. And then, you know, one of the other shapers goes out with a white headband and goes to find Soray. And I go to wait in the cabin, you know. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, Soray comes in out of game, and then from the circle, Infernal Walk 1, Infernal Walk 2, Infernal Walk 3, like, flops out of the circle, and we have her checked by the physician that's staying in our house to make sure that she's unharmed, and that she doesn't have any golem parts in her, or anything like that, you know? And she looks up at me, and she's like, Shaman, you saved me, you know, like, you protected me, and you're one of my people. Of course I did. Of course I protected you. You know? And she's like, well, you know, thank you. I really appreciate it. And it just felt so good to get that kind of instant feedback from plot. You know what I mean? Like, I am so not used to that with my demon deals and my like machinations and my plans and stuff. Like, it's so nice to have a response where it's like, I have a thing that will save a person, do it now. And then they just do, you know what I mean? And like, it works out, and it happens immediately. And it's not like, we don't have to have a fucking 30-minute discussion about how it's gonna work or whatever. It works, you know, like, we do the thing and it works. And it's a reasonable deal. It's the letter of it's a paladin's true name letter. It's fucking worth it, you know? And all that other stuff. You know, it's very much, I don't know. It feels good to get that kind of feedback, honestly. It's like really, really cool that plot listens to the stuff that I'm saying, you know, and like weighs and measures it against what it really is worth to them to keep this person, you know? The only reason they wouldn't have said yes is, like, you know, because they wanted to be vindictive and, like, inflict a condition on Soray. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm giving away a resource to get her back for you know, safe and clear, and there's nothing else about that story that goes anywhere. And I'm super happy about that. I'm super happy about, like, it's just a transaction. It's a quick transaction. It's done. You know? Makes me happy, basically. So yeah, that was cool. And then I think I went to the Argent Guard's cabin after that, or like a little bit before that. My day and my night and all the things that happened are all very muddled in my head, honestly, because it was like a jumble of activity. But I went to the Argent Guard cabin to tell them about what was going on with Rathian and with the curator, and how to defeat both those things, because like they hadn't heard. And I went to the cabin, and they have some NPC hold up in there that other NPCs are chasing, and they're clearly defending him. And I'm like, listen to me, I have information for you. And like, I told all these people what I'd learned, and they're like, okay, great. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave now. And they're like, you can't leave because there's Einhar outside that are looking for this guy with the stick. I'm like, why? And he's like, they think I stole the stick. I'm like, give the stick back. And he's like, I can't. It's soulbound to me. You know, I'm like, all right then. I guess I'm stuck in this fucking cabin with a bunch of humans for a few minutes. And then I look at Ander. He looks at me. I'm like, I could just turn him into a toad. And then you could put him in your pocket and walk out of here. And we're looking at each other and being like, that's a good plan. Like, that's a fucking good plan. They'll never find him if he's a toad, you know? And whatever. Like, there's this little bit of a plan forming. And then people are like, oh, the Einharv walked away, so I didn't have to waste the spell. I'm like, I'm leaving now. And they're all like, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. We didn't want to trap you in here, and it's fine. You can go, sort of thing. And I left. But there was this brief moment where I was like, I'll turn this person into a toad to hide them from these people. But then I didn't have to, so whatever. I'd rather not waste the spell, you know? It's amazing to me how much it is known in Zenithstrand that Aeryn is a witch. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, like, everybody knows that I'm a witch. When there are witchy things to deal with, or demonic shit to go on with, they come to me. And it's funny because witchcraft is supposedly illegal. You know what I mean? Like, supposedly illegal. But, nobody has told anyone about it yet. You know, the arbiters have been in town. The official lawmakers of the city have been around, and the powerful NPCs that, like, it matters to about the law and, like, all this other stuff have been around. And nobody has said anything about me to them. I've been expecting, like, a knock on my door that's like, you're under arrest, you know? So, and then I'd have to, like, kill someone, or whatever. But it never happened. It hasn't happened for the whatever, like, next however long, you know? It's been 2 months and nobody's told any of the important NPCs about me. But I think that might also be because they currently have, like, another quote-unquote, like, player group that they're dealing with, and there's a lot of, like, Thelon's camp against Thelonious and the town and, like, all this other stuff going on, where I'm kind of outside that and, like, not a problem, and I haven't done anything to fuck with anyone, so why would they mention me? You know? They've got other problems, and thankfully those other problems are being distracting about all the shit that I'm doing. It's great. It's fine. It's perfect. I'll just continue to make demon deals and slowly grow my own power. You know what I mean? Like, out in secret, you know? Those contingency cure serious wounds are going to come in handy at some point, I bet. But yeah, so that's a thing that, like, has been going on. So that night, oh my god, that night was insane. That night was crazy. So I thought it was going to be like, the curator comes and then goes away. And then Rathian comes and then goes away. And then Lucy comes and then goes away. But that is not what happened. That is not what happened. What happened was they all showed up at once with, like, 3 little NPCs apiece. You know, like, the curator had some golem, like, Shadowcat golems. The demon, you know, Rathian had some other demons with him. And Lucy had some Amaranth who were, like, bog worshippers, you know, with her. And they all showed up at once and fought us and each other over the ley line for about an hour. It was intense. It was fucking crazy. There was so much shit going on and so many powerful NPCs, like, wandering in and fucking people up, and, you know, like, and then one of them would be on the ley line and the other one would come up and, like, hit them and then, like, try and take it. And yeah, it was, holy crap. It was like the most frantic shit I've ever seen at a LARP game, honestly. The NPCs were killing each other and killing us, and we were trying to stop them, and they were trying to stop each other. You know, it was like some crazy shit. They all showed up at once to, like, claim the ley line. And the town was like, well, we can't do anything except play keep away because we have this gray elven dagger and it only works at the sun's zenith. And I'm thinking to myself, should I use my dagger? Should I offer someone my dagger now to like use right now here at night while all these things are here? But no. We'll keep it. We'll keep it in our back pocket for if we really need it later on. You know what I mean? Like, it was gonna expire at the end of the month, but the magic would be gone after that. But still, you know, like better to have it when it's needed if the other one doesn't show up. The other dagger, I mean. So I kept it in my pocket. But of course, what I did was square up against our demon enemy. Because if there's one thing that I'm good at, it's killing fucking demons. That's my whole jam. Killing demons and other witches is like my specialty. Aeryn is made for that. Psionic magic does 4 times damage to demons. And I have that and witchcraft. The 2 things that are best against demons. You know, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's fight. Let's fucking fight. And I square up against Rathian. And I haven't had to rememorize yet, so I still have a lot of my spells. And I roll in, and I'm like, fucking spell strike, ego burn, spell strike, ego burn, spell strike, ego burn, spell strike, ego burn, and that's like 60 damage per hit. A regular Balrog would be dead. 60 body per hit. Like a Balrog would die if it had no resists for that shit. I'm talking like big fucking demons would not be able to survive that. 60 body per hit 4 times. We're talking the big numbers, you know? It's pretty sweet. But so I roll in and I start like hitting Rathian with all these things. And he's like backing up and like hurting, and then he's coming in and swinging 12 magic at me like, oh fuck, this is gonna be a kick down drag out fight, you know? And I think, okay, well, he didn't resist any of those, so he doesn't have any spell defenses, so fucking exorcism, you know? I throw an exorcism at him, and he doesn't die. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I just threw an exorcism at him and he didn't die? We're in trouble. And so while he's reeling from the exorcism, I'm backing away. And you know, like, he's reeling from the exorcism, and he ends up, like, going to, like, fight someone else, or like he enrages someone and then fights happen elsewhere and whatever. This stuff happens. I end up separated from him during the rest of the fight, and I'm sort of standing on the outskirts of the fight, like killing ads or like anything that roams our way, and just like picking my moments and backing up when I need to, and like getting some healing and then coming back in and what have you. But I used like pretty much my whole spell book in this fight. Like, I used everything. And eventually, one of the Vesmir worshippers, like Argus and May, jumped into the ley line. And then I heard the magic words. Power word area, magic death. From one of the Shapers, Bryce, who is, like, wearing a white headband and just, like, marshalling. And power word area, magic death is bad. If it had been power word area death, that would have been worse. Power word area magic death means that it is as the battle magic, which means we can use shield magics and stuff. Thankfully, I had a shield magic. So, power word area magic death. A bunch of people are like shield magic, resist, death ward, you know what I mean? Like a bunch of people. But like a lot of people just fall over because these Vesmir worshippers have jumped into the ley line. And then that happened. And all the enemies died too. Except for like the Curator and Rathian and Lucy, who like fucked off, you know what I mean? So the fight was over after that. But then we had to get everybody back up, right? And everybody was so tired. The fight went on for so long. It felt like forever. And we got people back up, and everybody managed to survive it. But that was one of those things where I'm like, ooh, the kid gloves are off. We're getting like power word area deaths now. Damn, like this guild has come a long way. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of shit that is developed over the time. And anyway, so we get everybody up. I didn't need to use the Infernal Circle to get away because the Curator came and went, but never went to any of the cabins or anything. So I've still got this Infernal Circle just like sitting in my cabin that I haven't used. And the fight ends. And it's only about 11 p.m. at this point. The fight's ended and it's only about 11 p.m. Which is fairly early when it comes to like a LARP evening. But I was so tired, I went to bed. I said to my people, like, wake me up if something needs my attention. I'm going to bed. You know, and so I went to sleep, basically, after that. It was a frantic kickdown drag. Well, I studied first and then I went to sleep, but you know what I mean. Like I got my magic back, and then went to sleep. And I knew the next day was gonna be the same shit. You know what I mean? We were gonna get like all three of them trying to get the ley line the next day, but we were gonna have to kill them instead of like just driving them off. And that was gonna be fun times. So I managed to like prep up stuff for that. And then, yeah, Saturday night passed peacefully. But on Sunday morning, we were woken up again, or not woken up, but we were in our cabin, when a bunch of Amaranth came in again, going, bog, 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 and you're like chanting and like coming in to like look at the curtain and stuff. And they're touching the curtain and like worshiping it basically and saying like bog, 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 you know, like God of Blood and all that stuff. And they're touching it. And I look at the other two people who are in the building at the moment, Victor and Odette, and I get them to come to me and we like start touching it from the other side to try and make it look like something's happening, because Amaranth are stupid. They're basically cavemen. You know, like I think I can outsmart them with roleplay here, you know what I mean? Like try and like pick my way through this situation and see if I can not get murdered by 5 angry bog worshipping cavemen on the other side of this fucking curtain that we have up. And so they're touching this curtain, this bloody curtain that we have hanging, and like being really like, yeah, praise bog, kind of on the other side of it. And so we start touching it from the other side and going bog, 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 you know, like and so on, like, you know, making it move and stuff. And then as the chanting reaches its like peak, you know, as the chanting reaches its like crescendo, I go, Bog says, kill them all, you know, from the other side of the curtain. I just yell as if their god is speaking to them, you know what I mean? Like through the curtain. I thought this will totally work. They're stupid and they think that it's Bog or whatever talking to them. And sure enough, I went, Bog says, kill them all, from the other side of the curtain. And instead of coming through to murder us, they went, yeah, and like turned around, ran out of the cabin, went to next door, and just fucking killed everybody in their beds and stuff. I was like, whew, quick thinking saved my life with a bit of trying to trick a bunch of stupid cavemen into going to kill other people instead of me. I was so happy that, like, roleplay was a valid way to win that situation. You know what I mean? I didn't use any of my skills to do that. I just conducted roleplay and, like, had this bloody sheet hanging here. Then they liked Bog. You know what I mean? So it's good. And I kept using that, by the way, because, of course, after that, it was like the big crescendo fight at the end of Sunday, you know, which is always like the climactic battle sort of thing of the weekend. And I kept using that trick. Whenever one of them, like, came up to me or was gonna, like, hit me while we were in the fight, I would just go, like, Bog! Like I was on their team, and they'd be like, yeah! And then, like, turn around and kill someone else. It was great. It's great. It's totally good. You know, like, it worked out really well. In terms of, like, just using roleplay to create situations where instead of having to use skills, I just used intelligence, you know? That kind of shit. But so the big climactic battle happened. And of course, like, the curator's there, Lucy's there, and Rathian is there again. And we end up in this big fight. With, I'm not kidding, they must have doubled the size of the NPC team. Like, a bunch of people went on NPC shifts and, like, played as well. And they were, like, double the amount of all of the minions. And it was fucking insane. It was crazy. And like, it's hard to narrate, like, how a fight goes, but there's a lot of, like, withdrawing, making sure there's nothing behind you, like, moving in, fighting, making sure that things around you are, you know, like, okay. Make sure that person on the ground over there isn't your friend that's dead, and, like, there's just a lot happening, you know, like, all at once. And it's very frantic, and it's very full of moments. And I have a couple of moments from it that I'm gonna share with you. A couple of moments in the fight. So Lucy, the first murderer, the person I randomly slept that first night, she runs up to me, and she goes, "You're not prepared! 10-body decapitate!" And it hits me with it, and I go, "Eye for an eye," which is basically like, whatever you do to me happens to you. I went, "Eye for an eye." Alien anatomy, because I have that amazing alien anatomy for the whole game, where I cannot be head chopped or arm chopped or executed or vital blowed or whatever, because it doesn't work on me this game. You know what I mean? Like, I have but shadows and darkness inside me rather than blood and organs, you know? So she goes, 10-body decapitate, hits me, and I go, "Eye for an eye." Alien anatomy. And she goes, "Parry," to, like, block it, because she has infinite parries, you know? And then I think, like, didn't know what to do, and, like, we sort of separated in the fight again, and, like, she ended up fighting somebody else, and, like, there's all this other stuff going on. And then I ended up squared up against Rathian again, right? And Rathian's there, and he's looking at me, and we're squared up, me and this demon, you know? And, we're squared up, me and this demon, and he goes, "You would fight one of your own?" You know? And I look at him and I go, "One of my own? Who do you serve?" And he's like, "I am the scion of anger!" You know, and I go like, "Well, I serve the demon prince of madness." And he looks at me and he goes, "Then have at you." And we end up in this big fight where it's just like sword fighting, spell slinging, fucking awesomeness, and, like, he's getting hurt and I'm getting hurt, and I'm calling defenses and he's calling defenses, and there's, like, this cool fucking fight happening. It's really, it's hard to describe how a cool fight goes in LARP unless I could show you, you know what I mean? And it's difficult, but, like, having those moments of role play in the fight are super cool too, you know what I mean? Like, those moments of, like, let's have a brief discussion before we fucking fight, you know, and then we fight. And then he's like, we ended up separated, but then I see him later, and he's, like, panting and gasping and, like, trying to do something to, like, build his strength back up. And before he can, I whip a spell at him. It hits him, and he falls to the ground. And I'm like, I'm not letting anybody else get that loot. Fuck that. And I run over there, and I'm like checking his body, because you know what? It's my job to kill big demons, which means whatever they've got, I'm fucking taking it. You know what I mean? I'm digging through his body. I'm like, you know, looting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and, like, I've got people looking out for me and, like, making sure that I'm not gonna get killed, and, like, you know, Furball runs up while I'm looting, and I'm like, "Bog!" You know, and they're like, "Bog!" And then they go kill someone else, because I'm, like, rubbing blood on my face from the corpse, you know, trying to be all Bog-like, so they don't kill me. And then I see the curator walking towards me. This big, lumbering robot motherfucker has, like, locked eyes with me, and is, like, slowly, like, chunk, 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 like, coming towards me while I'm looting. I'm, like, looting 31, looting 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. This row is, like, chunk, coming towards me real slow. And he stands in front of me. I'm like looting 50, and I'm still looting, and I'm looking at him, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not backing up, you know what I mean? And he's like ratcheting arm back 1, ratcheting arm back 2, ratcheting arm back 3, you know, and I'm like looting 60, and I get the loot, and he goes, "You're not prepared." 10 500 arcane slay, like, comes down towards me. This massive, like, could shatter houses hit. And somebody, I think it was Dom, sticks their shield in front and goes, like, resist, you know, and it, like, hits it, and there's just this shield in front of me I didn't even know was around until it was directly in front of me, like, blocking. And I'm like, thanks. And, like, grab my loot and, like, get out of there, right? And then Rathian goes like, "As you were looting, you were ritually compelled to eat my heart." And I'm like, okay, well, I was covering my face in your blood, so let's just say I ate your heart while I was looting. And he's like, "Yeah, +4 strength for the next hour." I'm like, oh, I've got like demonic strength coursing through my veins, if I even have veins, because I currently have like a whole bunch of black smoke instead of organs, you know? That kind of shit. But so I got +4 strength for the next hour, which is awesome. So I check my loot, and in the loot there is a life potion, which is a thing you can't make unless you have chemistry. So this is like, usually you can make like cure light wounds potions and like, you know, little healing potions and stuff. This is a life potion, you know? So that's hella valuable. That's the kind of thing, like, yeah, that in my back pocket for a rainy day, fuck yes. You know, like, put that away. A life potion and a gold bar on the demon. I'm like, yeah. So I get my +4 strength for eating the demon heart, and a life potion, and a gold bar. This is what I got on my loot. I turn back around because, well, the curator's not dead, and Lucy's not dead. We got work to do. And I summon a hex to grant eye for an eye, give myself another eye for an eye, and I walk out towards the curator, and I lock eyes with him again. I'm like, come and get me! Try me again! You know what I mean? Like, bring it in, you know? And he walks back towards me, and I stand in front of him, and I cross my fucking arms. I'm like, do it, you know? And he goes, ratcheting arm back 1, ratcheting arm back 2, ratcheting arm back 3, swings in. You're not prepared 10, 500 arcane slay. He hits me. I go, eye for an eye. Dodge. So he takes a 500 slay and I dodge. And because it's like splashback, it's damage that actually hurts him. You know what I mean? Like, rather than being, you know, like invulnerable to it, it's his own hit. So it you know, it hits him, basically. So he takes 500 damage from his own swing for hitting me, basically. And I just dodged. I just like, I made it splashback and then I dodged it, you know, sort of thing. And Wes was like, holy fuck, you know what I mean? Like, there was a moment of like, holy shit. And I found out later that the others on the ley line are throwing, oh, I forgot to tell you about the ley line, but we'll do that in a second. So the others on the ley line were throwing 1 arcane per packet to deal damage to the curator. 1 arcane. We did 500 arcane in 1 fucking hit from his own shit. You know what I mean? Which is awesome. I feel like I contributed greatly to that fight, you know? Throwing 1 arcane per packet to try and kill this thing. And by the way, my knife did get used. They used the real one on... Branwen used the real one on herself. And then she was doing it, like, and then I knew there was a guy who really wanted to, like, be the self-sacrifice, like, do the thing and throw the powers. So I gave my fake knife to Metgard, who's this guy. I gave him the fake knife, and I was like, use that. It's the same as the other knife. And he's like, what? How did you get this? You know, like, what is this? I'm like, do you really want to ask questions? Just do it. You know, and he's like, okay, activate magic item, plunge into my heart. You know, like, and then he did the thing too. But it was really funny seeing people's expressions once there were 2 people throwing stuff in the ley line. Like, how did that happen? And then afterwards explaining that I got a second dagger, and I can't tell you where I got it, but I got a second dagger, and do you really want to know the details? You know? It was pretty great. It was pretty great. just to like be like, yeah, and you know that super specific plot item that only a Grey Elf had, this ancient relic that was like super rare and would help you merge with the ley line? Yeah, I've just got a second one. People were surprised by that. You know? But anyway, I didn't want to do it myself. I wasn't gonna kill myself to fucking use the power of the ley line. Because when you did it and you dedicated to the ley line, like stabbing yourself in the heart, you took a spirit severed death. So like you were going through the resurrection circle if you did it. I wasn't gonna do that myself. I'm not gonna sacrifice my own life when I know there's plenty of other people who have sacrificed their lives to do the same thing. You know, it's fine. So a little bit after that, I was out of resources. I'm fucking tapped, like trying to back out of the fight and make sure that I'm not gonna die and all that stuff, and like keeping my friends safe. And there was a lot of cool fighting going on around me, but I had killed Rathian. I'd done what I came to do. Like when it comes to Aeryn's focus, it's like, is there a big demon? Kill that shit. You know, like, and once that's done, like I feel like I've finished my focus. And they ended up, you know, like being able to kill everything, and like Lucy died and the curator died, and like we won the fight, and that was basically the end of the game. After that, yeah, and that's kind of how it went. So all in all, for me, it was a really good weekend. But I know that there was, like, a lot of out-of-game drama involved in, like, the PvP stuff that was happening. And, like, you know, Thalon's camp with, like, the Leandrites and, like, Thelonious in the town. And, like, people getting hurt feelings over it or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't involved in any of that, so I can't really talk about how it went. But I have to say, I saw a lot of people walking around in, like, white headbands and having, like, you know, serious conversations with people. So I hope it all went okay. And my heart goes out to the shapers and the owners who had to deal with, you know, out-of-game drama while I tried to provide in-game drama. You know, when I came to do that thing where I rescued Saray from the curator's grasp, basically with a letter of that paladin's true name, when I did that, one of the things Archer said, one of the shapers, was like, why can't we just do like more of this kind of bullshit all the time? You know what I mean? Like why can't people visiting plot camp have like these kinds of things to do? You know, and white headbands signify like being out of game, you know. So that's this week's LARP stories. I think we've gotten through most of them. If I think of anything else, I'm sure I'll tell you during the. Oh! I forgot. I got a new Fizz rep. Because one of the guys there sells stuff at a table. His name is Wayne, and he sells stuff at a table, like leather stuff and like boffers and whatever. So I got a new knife for Aeryn. It's pretty cool, right? It's just like a kitchen knife, but it's fake, obviously. It's a boffer. So I just, you know, we just need more stabby knives and intimidating things. I was like, yeah, let's get a freaking Michael Myers murder knife. Why not? You know, like, I think it's Mithril, Camellian. I'm not sure though. Not entirely sure, but it's been marshaled and like approved by Zenithstrand. It's like all good. So I was like, hell yeah. You know, like let's get it. It's really nicely done. I like it. So I had to buy it. I saw it on the table of like stuff, and I was like, I have to get the fucking kitchen knife to go with my meat cleaver. You know, like just plenty of good reasons to have that. For a witch, you know, like this is the perfect, like, you know, stir your cauldron, like silver mastercrafted dagger kind of knife. You know what I mean? Like ritual killing knife sort of thing. It'll be great. It'll be great. I'll figure out something to do with it. But I wanted it, basically. But yeah, that's stories for this week. Thank you, everybody, for coming by and listening to them, and I hope you enjoyed the stories. YouTube folks, thanks for listening, but I'm gonna cut you off here. Those of you who are here live, let's talk about LARP for a bit. I want to interact with chat a little bit about the LARP stuff and like answer questions and all that sort of thing. So YouTube folks, I'll see you guys later. Bye. All right, chat. I can talk to you now. And also, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat